What is your promise? Why are you in business? How do you expect to grow?
This is The Hook, a show focused on branding, marketing, and business development.
You brand to inspire, not to sell.
Jason Arcemont, the marketing maverick, gives expertise to business owners, serial entrepreneurs, and anyone interested in building a stronger company brand.
Creating a brand is like telling a story. You've got one shot to say it all.
When your marketing works, you've got them on the hook.
You found us. It's The Hook, the first ever show that incorporates marketing and branding, brought to you by The Work Lodge. We like to consider ourselves a business solution to your everyday company needs that help you increase your presence and your return on investment. My name is Josh Reno, the marketing specialist over at Brightbox Brand Marketing, along with Jason Arcemont. He's the CEO and, well, the guy that runs pretty much everything in my world over at Brightbox too. And he's the guy that runs The Hook. He's the marketing maverick of this show. So welcome to the show. I know that we have so much to go over, and we have a lot of emails that came in from last week.
Right.
For us, it's very exciting to have this show going on, but for you, it's got to be especially exciting because this is all your idea.
Yeah, I mean, this is the combination of several years of just being passionate about business development and helping people grow their businesses. You know, obviously, we do that every day over at Brightbox, our brand marketing firm. But I wanted to have a kind of an outlet for some additional ideas and combining some of the tips of the trade that we've learned, some of the secrets in application, where we could share that with listeners and an audience. And, you know, that's what the show's all about. We want to help companies establish their hook, right? Capturing their consumer, getting that one moment where the consumer decides to buy or engage. That's what we call the hook. And, you know, that's what we want to help you guys develop. So we're here. We're excited to bring you another great show. And I want to remind you to keep going and checking out the website. We're getting good feedback there. Good way to get engaged. thehookradio.com. We've got the email there. We've got all our social media links. So definitely go to the site, check the podcast for previous episodes. And
sign up for the newsletter.
Yeah, the newsletter's there. We've got a free ebook that you can download. We've got publications and other things that we're working on that'll all be up there. So definitely check us out online.
And not only is it the knowledge that we have from working in this every day, but we also bring in special guests every single week that kind of tell their side of the story, what it's like for them, their successes, and sometimes a few failures along the way.
Yeah, last week, Gary shared a couple of his setbacks with us, which I love, just that transparency. And this week's guest is Brad Parler with Blinds.com. I'm sure a lot of you guys have heard of Blinds.com. They're the #1 retailer of window finishings. And Brad's actually the digital communication administrator, so he heads up pretty much the technology end of Blinds.com. So he's going to be sharing some of those things. But one of the things I really like about Brad is Brad, early on in his career with Blinds.com, he established his personal brand. Now, that's kind of a buzzword, I guess. You know, I've got several folks that emailed us asking about how to start a brand, or I'm just a one-guy operation. How do I start a brand? And we're going to talk about that today, the personal brand, what that personal brand is, what it means to have a personal brand.
And actually, what is a brand?
Yeah. Well, I guess that's a good place to start. So historically, you know, a brand is defined as the identity of a specific product, service, or business. Now, what we've seen over the past decade or so is that there's an addition to that definition. So now it's no longer just a product, a service, or business, but it's a product, service, business, or person, right? So an individual can hold a brand in the eyes of the consumer. So my brand, your brand, Josh, Brad's brand, everybody now has a brand, which as a marketing guy, I love. Right? Because that means we get to throw the reputation out the window, and we're now in control of our brand, and we get to dictate what people think of us. And so it's going to be really important through the show to keep an open mind about what does your brand stand for? What thought are you owning in the minds of the consumer, not just for your company, but you as an individual? What do you stand for? How do you contribute? What do people think of when they first hear your name?
Okay, and there are different elements in a brand too.
Understanding that a brand, you know, first and foremost, is moldable, right? That you can transition, it can evolve. I've talked to so many young business people, or even those kids still in college, and I'll go speak to Rice, University of Houston, and I'll always get somebody that says, well, man, you know, I just feel like my brand or my reputation is kind of tainted. You know, maybe I spent too much time partying in college, or, you know, I've done some things where my record isn't as clean as I'd like it to be. Well, man, the good news for them is that a brand is moldable. And just like corporate brands or product brands, we're able to transition what the thought that brand owns, we can change it over time, right? I mean, celebrities do this all the time. I mean, look at Iron Man, right? I mean, you think
Robert Downey Jr.?
Yeah. You know, my kids love him. I've got a poster of the guy on my kid's wall. Man, what, 15 years ago? You've got mugshots of Robert Downey Jr.
Yeah.
I mean, his brand was trash.
He did a couple of movies, and he just really went downhill. The drugs, drinking, whatever it was, had to go to rehab. And we always knew that he was a great actor, but he had some issues.
Right.
And he was able to completely break out of that. But that's not the case for everybody.
Right.
It was a very strategic move that he made, like bit by bit, to get himself there.
See, and it's strategic. It's thought out. People with positive brands don't typically get that positive brand or that positive reputation without effort. Right? Somebody had to sit down and say, okay, Robert, how are we going to get you out of this situation? How are we going to take you from being looked at as the drug guy, the drinker, the partier, the mugshot, and get you into some leading roles in Hollywood and have you be adored by children and parents support that admiration? That's a really important element of a brand, is that products, companies, services, they can all mold and they can change over time. Well, you can too. So if your reputation or what you were in the past is not what you want to be in the future, don't sweat it. You can start now. Start positioning yourself for the future.
That's the marketing maverick, Jason Arcemont. My name is Josh Reno. You're listening to The Hook. Always online, thehookradio.com. That's where you check out the podcast and the newsletter, and you could sign up for that too. Now, what else about brands? What are some other elements that go along with it?
Probably one of my favorite ones for brands, and again, most people think of brands as companies, but we're talking about personal branding, your individual brand as a person, is that brands are everlasting, right? So to do a brand properly means that it should withstand the test of time, and that from today, 50 years from now, somebody should remember the brand. And we're starting to see that in the personal branding arena, but even back a long time ago, guys like Martin Luther King, Albert Einstein, right? When you say those names, you think of something. They own a thought in your mind, and it was intentional. These folks did this, and not just because they were on a big platform, because there's plenty of other people who weren't social movement activists. They weren't great philosophers and thinkers and educators. But, think of someone like Marilyn Monroe, right? She was kind of a celebrity of her own personal brand. Or the Kardashians. I hate to even mention them.
Yeah.
But they have created a brand around their name and really some stardom and fame, and they have sponsors, and they make tons of money because they position their brand a certain way. It is a great point that we all have different attributes and different sides to our personality. And, just like a publicist or a PR rep for a politician is going to put their best side forward or best foot forward, right? As far as exposing them to the public, you can do the same thing with yours. And we're going to talk a little bit about some implementation, ways that you can start taking control of your brand. But we do want to stress that it's moldable. They should be everlasting. Think about what you want your brand to be 10, 15 years from now. And like I said earlier, throw away your reputation. If you're going to be a professional person and you're going to have, not even that you're selling something, but if you're in a workplace, a work environment, you work at a corporation, you should be thinking about your personal brand within that environment every single day. How do you look to your coworkers? How do you look to your boss, to the president of the company? What are you doing when you're going out networking, when you're going to happy hour? Are you the one getting wasted? Are you the one putting on a scene? Depending on the market and the industry you're in, that may not be a good idea. Josh,
wait, are you talking to me? Are you talking about me? What
Luckily
did I do?
for you work at a marketing firm, so you can get away with it. But a lot of folks, they're not thinking about their personal brand. Your work alone, I'd say there's probably that 80-20 rule. It's a big part of what you do and is a big reason why you will be promoted and have advancement in your career. But your personal brand, your reputation, as it used to be called, your personal brand will lead you and will drive you through and up that ladder of success.
Hey, did you see that thing I posted the other day on thehookradio.com? I knew that you probably saw it. It was the work lodge, the pictures inside the work lodge.
Oh, yeah.
Amazing place. We talked about the disco ball last week.
Yeah.
Had to get a picture of it.
Well, I've talked with Mike, actually, Thork over there. He's going to come on the show. So,
oh, cool.
Yeah. So he's going to come and share his story with us. And if you're not following us on social media, go to the website, click on our social media stuff, and follow us. We follow up a lot of the topics that we talk about here on the show on our social media pages as well as the website. So make sure that you're going to those places and getting involved. We are going to probably run out of time on implementation, but I want to drop a couple notes here. You need to be niche in the thought that you own. You need to look different. Think about the way that you present yourself, right? Not just wearing the same suit that everybody else is wearing. Own a certain item or element to the way that you bring yourself visually. Sound different. Find new ways to articulate knowledge. Create new ways to talk about things. Write blogs. Own a segment of the market. And be very visual. Get out there and be exposed.
Okay, cool. So that's parts of the brand and really that personal brand that we're going to be talking to and delving into more today. That's what's coming up on the show. Recap who else that we have coming up.
Well, we've got Brad Parler coming up here in a little bit.
Okay.
We're going to do a brand review segment. It's going to be a little bit different than the weeks past. And we're going to talk about LinkedIn later on.
All right, cool. More of The Hook after this.
Well, close your eyes and dream with me. I'm going on a trip through history. I want to see some sights today.
If you have a small business and you want to learn about marketing and branding, you found the right show for you. This is called The Hook. My name is Josh Reno, along with Jason Arcemont, the marketing maverick. And this segment, we're actually going to be talking about that brand review that we do every single show, which you were going to do it different this time, you said.
Yeah, so in the past, we've talked about company brands, product or actual companies. Today, since the whole show, we're kind of talking about personal branding. You know, we just wrapped up what a personal brand is and gave some tips on how to define your personal brand. We're going to go down the path of exploring a personal brand that turned into an empire of a brand, of a company brand. And so I think that's going to be a lot of fun. Today, this segment is brought to you by ShadowboxTalent.com, one of your favorite staffing recruiting folks. Josh was brought to us by Shadowbox Talent. Shadowbox Talent is a full-service HR outsourcing group. Business partners of mine, Gary Valentine and Callie Valentine, started this company a few years back and have just done a phenomenal job of developing and really just tailoring to the individual business owner's needs. So many times the big payroll processing guys, the big staffing guys, you're just a number to them. Well, at Shadowbox Talent, you really develop a personal relationship. You get to know the owners of the company. They're involved in your account on a weekly, monthly basis, and just make that whole process so much nicer. So
I know that you've said this before. You've used the word boutique.
We have all the big companies' services and availability through staffing, recruiting, payroll processing, helping out with your payroll, what to do with Obamacare. I mean, there's just so many small things and have a big impact on your business that Shadowbox can help with. But that boutique, I like to call it a boutique just because it's very hands-on from the ownership level on down through the employees. So you feel like you're part of it. You feel like you're bringing these people in to be a part of your team. And I just love the way that Gary and Callie have done that. I'll probably have them on as a guest here coming up to share their story maybe in the next couple weeks or something. Meanwhile, you can go to the website, thehookradio.com, and we've got a link to their information there. You can click on and go get to know them a little bit. Reach out for any staffing, recruiting, payroll processing needs. They'd love to hear from you.
And now it's time for that brand review that's going to be different.
Yeah, I felt like that time we should have made like some ba-da-ba, like some music. That's time for the brand review. Yeah, so this week we're going to look at it a little bit different, and it's probably a different person. So this is somebody that was a fashion icon, Coco Chanel. I know a lot of people think of Chanel. I picked this one because Chanel is still such a relevant brand, and I would bet that a lot of young folks, if you wouldn't ask them, they would probably think Coco Chanel was still alive. The brand is so relevant and so fresh and modern that it has just evolved over time. We talked about a brand needing to be able to evolve and be everlasting. Well, this brand has done that. And well before it was a brand as a company, Coco Chanel had identified all the attributes of being a personal, individual brand, and she did this phenomenally well. And we're talking about during the time of like between World War I and World War II. Wow. So, yeah, this was quite some time ago. She basically started out by just kind of breaking the status quo for what women's fashion was. She started streamlining her clothing. I think she started out with like a hat company and took all the big fluffy bows and flowers and everything that these women have, these big gaudy hats, and she had a much more kind of simple, streamlined, I guess it was almost more masculine for the time. She was kind of known for breaking that feminist role, right, or that view of what fashion had put on women. She started wearing slacks. She was just unbelievable in how she created her own image and look.
More fashion forward.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm not a big fashion guy, but from a branding perspective, it's just unbelievable what she was able to do. And for that time, invented the women's suit, right? The Hillary Clinton power suit. She invented. I'm sure
Look, if you're talking about someone that's made it, you probably don't want to link it to that suit.
Yeah,
that's nothing political, by the way. Just that suit.
Probably not the most flattering.
Yeah,
but
let's try Lady Gaga.
Yeah, well,
because she does. I mean, she wears power suits.
Whenever she's definitely somewhat of a fashion icon herself. I'm sure I wouldn't be surprised if she starts pushing her fashion agenda more and more.
Onto Hillary Clinton?
Maybe not onto Hillary Clinton. I'm not sure where that one's going.
That's a whole separate brand review.
That's right. Aside from just how visual she was in what she was doing, she was also extremely vocal. She created new words and terms within her industry. She's known for inventing the little black dress.
The LBD?
Isn't that crazy? I mean, from that long ago, even now, still nowadays, moms and daughters, women still talk about, oh, yeah, just put on a little black dress. And it's kind of like known what it is you're talking about. And back in like 1938, this radical thinking lady brought this concept to the market, and this has been everlasting, right?
How many times have you seen that on Instagram or Facebook? I broke up my LBD. And then there's guys that are, what is that? What's an LBD?
Yeah. Is that like a fantasy football thing? What is that?
Right?
Yeah.
You're drafting an LBD?
Yeah. Yeah. So think about that when you're looking at creating your personal brand. This is a good example of how she was able to use the way she spoke to be different and to be unique. So by creating new terms or by creating new thoughts or concepts or ideas within her industry. And I would venture to say that probably before she even opened her first boutique, her first store, maybe she was being an apprentice or she was working under somebody, she was already starting these types of conversations and starting to speak like this. And so if you find yourself being an employee, you're still self-employed. Right? You're still responsible for your own personal brand and the way that you market yourself. And I mean, nothing's more impressive. Talking about speaking, right? Talking about the way that you speak and the way that you come across as a personal brand. I review a lot of applications from people all the time. And there's always within 100, there'll probably be 5 that are saying, hey, I'm an engineer, or hey, I'm a graphic designer, or I'm a whatever their trade may be. And they actually have a blog. They have their own website for themselves where they have thoughts about all the differences and how they want to make an impact and the curves and the current culture and the current trends within their market and the things that they do. I found that to be just unbelievably smart. I mean, from a branding perspective, this person is showing me that not only at work when he's getting paid, that they're interested in this topic, but that they have committed a section or a portion of their life to that.
But it has to be well thought out, too.
Yeah, you want to be a leader, right? Otherwise, you shouldn't set your brand to be that. Your brand should be something, as an individual, it should be something that you're passionate around. For me, it's easy for me to position my brand to be a business-minded brand marketing guy because, man, that's what I'm passionate about. I love to help people build their companies, build their business, make their visions or dreams or goals become a reality. And so it's easy for me to have a website where I'm posting articles about that. I'm sharing tips of the trade. I'm saying, hey, here's some secret recipe that we found for converting e-blasts, right? So that's something that I'm passionate about. So you should be thinking about the same thing.
And like 180 for me, I like to talk about beer. You'll find me talking about beer and different beer companies that have really great product and how you can find them. And I do the beer show here with James Simpson all the time.
That's right.
So.
But that's a great example, though, Josh, because you can leverage your passion for drinking beer.
It is a passion.
It is a passion.
No
it's a
doubt.
different level, guys. Josh just doesn't drink beer. He likes learning about it. He likes learning about how it's brewed, the different hops and the different stuff that they put in it. I don't know how technical, but he likes that whole process. He likes the craftsmanship of it. And so, I mean, who knows? By doing more of that and being on that radio show and doing more of those type of blogs and creating a site, maybe your part in our company at the brand marketing firm starts catering to the craft brewery marketplace. Right?
That would be, I don't know if I'd ever come into work, but it would be fantastic.
Right.
I probably shouldn't talk about that right here, though.
Well, but that's a good example of how you could take something that you're passionate about and kind of twist it around, create a platform, and now it can start helping you to leverage exposure into the marketplace where you couldn't have before. You wouldn't have stood out. And then the other element that we talked about was kind of being moldable and being flexible and changing. And Coco Chanel ended up doing a fragrance, a perfume, and is still to this day one of the most iconic brands in that space. As a fashion person, right, clothing, all these other things, she took advantage of an opportunity to do a perfume and is still one of the most top selling perfumes on the market. I think that's unbelievable. And her design concepts continue to be relevant. Like I was saying at the beginning of the segment, something from the 30s to 50s is still relevant today. It just shows that branding done right, branding done well, can last over the time, for sure.
And it's more of a status symbol than anything, wouldn't you think?
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, everything that they produce, that company produces, is really fantastic, and it's top of the line. And when you're buying that, it's for status for the most part, and to show that you fit into a certain classification, that is.
Yep. The next guy I want to talk about real quick, he was a phenomenal individual, just completely a quirky, eccentric, wildly strange guy, is Andy Warhol. Now, most of us, when we think of Andy Warhol, we probably think of the overly colored, pixelated images that he would do in the 4 square or 6 square with the same image in different color combinations. If you don't know what I'm talking about, again, go to our Facebook. I'll have some posts on there. thehookradio.com. You can check that out. But Andy Warhol was such an interesting individual that I think it's important to note that for most of us, what we're trying to do is emulate what people do naturally. There's those people out there who just naturally have people drawn to them because of their unique expressions, the way that they put themselves out there, the way that they dress, the way they speak. And then there's the rest of us who are going to try to mirror or figure out a formula to get ourselves to be just as unique and get some exposure and get some attention. And Andy did that just at such a different level. The guy was so strange. And more than his art, he was probably known for his lavish lifestyle. He was openly gay at the time, which was very controversial. He would have these crazy parties. Everybody who was anybody in that area would come to these parties and experience this kind of celebrity status through an artist, which was just kind of unthought of at the time. And keep in mind, this guy made millions of dollars. I mean, his art, I think I saw just recently that one of his highest selling pieces was like over $100 million.
Wow.
So, being weird and quirky and standing out, not that you have to be a crazy weird guy, but being different in the way that you present yourself to the market than all the others. If everybody else in your marketplace is being the same rigid professional, think about how you can break out from that.
Another guy to keep in mind is Steve Jobs.
Yeah.
He's on that list.
Absolutely. I mean, when you think of Steve Jobs, you think of his company, you think of Apple. Steve was Apple, and you knew exactly who he was every time you saw him. Whether or not you remembered his face, you saw that black turtleneck, you knew exactly who it was. He presented himself the same way every single time, and the way that he would talk passionately about technology and his company definitely put him on the front of that brand.
We're going to have more information about all these people on our website, thehookradio.com. That's Jason Arcemont, the Marketing Maverick. I'm Josh Reno. We got another segment coming up next, and this is going to be talking about our business tip of the day. It's on the way on The Hook.
Hold tight with a leather fist. Watch out when he starts to twist. What the daddies used to tell him boys. How to ride them.
Along with Jason Arcemont, the Marketing Maverick, my name is Josh Reno, and we are The Hook. Doing our business tip of the day, it's time for that segment where we give you a tip, something that you can carry on throughout the week and something that helps you personally grow and your business at the same time. And It's brought to you by ontoboxtraining.com, which we haven't talked a whole lot about Ontobox Training.
We haven't. Ontobox is another bright box company. This is our corporate training group. And so today we're going to talk about, in the realm of personal branding, what can you do to help advance your personal brand? I thought we'd talk a little bit about LinkedIn. I think this is one of the most underused platforms for professionals out there. And a lot of the tips within this LinkedIn stuff applies to Facebook and to some of the other social platforms. Ontobox Training does all types of corporate training, from management to corporate culture to sales to social media. I mean, you name it. You can check them out at ontoboxtraining.com. There'll also be a full report on this LinkedIn tips and guide on that site as well. A couple quick facts about LinkedIn. It's kind of interesting. So there's 238 million users right now on LinkedIn. Probably a little bit more than that because these are somewhat dated. They're in over 200 countries, 3 million business pages, which means you have personal profiles like the individuals, and then you can have your company page profile. And so there's 3 million business pages on there. There's 60 million daily users. So every day, over 60 million people are on LinkedIn, engaging, connecting, talking, sharing. And what I love about LinkedIn is that it's 100% business. So it is focused on the business class.
Here's what people get confused by. They think, well, this is great because it is business focused, but they think that there's a little playtime in there too. So whenever they see maybe coworkers on there, they don't treat it business-like.
For me personally, I think you should break this up. I mean, that's kind of a mold for me. I think this is a great avenue where you can still be business and professional and sharing business tips and advice, but maybe your personal brand is a little bit edgier. Maybe you come across a little bit more on a personal level and you look different than everybody else on LinkedIn who has the suit and tie profile pic. Again, look at the way that things are always done on a platform or in the environment that you're communicating with and look for ways to break out of that.
But you don't want to reach out to people in an unbusiness-like manner. And I had this come up this past week where I get a connection request, and I think, well, for me, connection requests, they're not really exclusive. Any connection that I can make, maybe somebody that I will network with in the future. So I took this connection request, and then I started getting messages from that person trying to sell themselves and what they had to offer. And for me, it was kind of faux pas. Like they shouldn't have chosen that approach to it.
I think that's just a good example of somebody on social media trying to engage and sell who's not a salesperson.
Yeah.
Right? Because we've said it before, guys, brands don't sell, they inspire. So you should be inspiring somebody to ask you questions about what it is you do rather than forcing everything you know about that topic onto the individual. But before we get into that contact, we should back up a little bit. If you're getting on LinkedIn or you're wondering what to do and how to do it right, the very first thing you need to do is get your profile right. This is the first impression. Think of this as the first conversation that you're going to have with somebody. So the content needs to be accurate, it needs to be professional, or maybe it needs to be more laid back or less professional, but it needs to be accurate to who they're going to meet if you did go meet in person. You want your LinkedIn profile to be very, very similar to what it would be like if you showed up in person. So you don't want it to be overly corporate and then you show up in shorts and t-shirt and you're like, geez, man, my impression of you is totally different than who you really are. So get your content and your visuals, your pictures, nail them down.
As far as the picture goes, this is a conversation I had the other day about LinkedIn, is that I had a friend that is on LinkedIn and I saw their profile pic and it was them with their children. And I had somebody that was passing by and they said, well, that's not a very professional picture. Well, that's what they do for a living. It has something that involves children.
Yeah, right. So if they own a daycare or something, if it's...
That's exactly right.
Right. Maybe you don't want to be that guy that's in the back of the limo with the sunglasses on and a bunch of chicks around him or something. No. Unless that's what you do professionally, that's probably not the picture that we want to put on LinkedIn. So keep that for your private Facebook stuff. Definitely make sure that you have a good profile pic. You want to not have it so panned out that we can't see your face, that we can't see who you are. I really recommend having a good zoomed in shot so people can get to know you. You can connect a lot with the eyes and with the face and then start having something that people will remember you by. And then make sure that you fill out the summary. So when doing this profile, you got to do the summary. Get all the background information that you can. Look, I know it's going to take all of 5 or 10 minutes of your day, and you're so important. But hey, if you're already making the commitment to be on LinkedIn, let's do it right. Because there's nothing worse than you go to somebody's page who's obviously made a commitment because they put a profile pic up, and then they didn't fill anything out. It's like, what are you doing here? Why? Just take the page down.
Or vice versa. They filled things out and didn't put a profile pic up.
Yeah. Let's just do it right, guys. Follow the steps. I think LinkedIn now, if you just start filling in certain things, it'll walk you through, hey, do this next to increase your profile ranking.
That's right. They will tell you how much of your profile has been filled out and where you need it to be for a certain ranking, which is good because it pushes you on to get it done. And it's very easy, very user-friendly and intuitive.
That's
so you can go through there and it kind of fills it out for you. You just put in a few keywords here and there and you're good.
That's it. And once you've got all that in place, then you can start doing kind of like what Josh was talking about, the connecting, right? This is where the real magic happens. And you can look at your connections in one of two ways. You can go up to the top little search bar. You can put in sales managers and it'll pull up a list of a bunch of sales managers and you can try to connect with those people. And I've got basically two different strategies for you. One, connect with any and everybody that you possibly can. Build up a database and a network of connections that is unsurpassed, right? Where you've got just thousands and thousands of people on there that you can connect with and share ideas and collaborate with. The other way, if you are more of an exclusive person, like Mark Demas, he's going to be coming on this show, I think in the next couple weeks. He is like number 5 Hispanic realtor in the country. The guy sells like 200 homes a month. He's phenomenal.
Wow.
What he does is quite a bit different. He wants to have very, very, very few connections, but all like top-tier, high-level individuals. Big-time player investors, influencers. So he may only have 25 or 50 people that he connects with, so that if somebody else who's similar in profile as those top-tier investors will go to his connections and see, man, this guy doesn't play around. He doesn't connect with just anybody. He only has the high-end guys that he's connected with here on his page. So he must be an influencer himself. So those are the two different ways. Most of us, if we're just starting out, you just need to get volume, man. Get everybody you can.
You're going to go through your Yahoo contacts or Gmail contacts, and it will give you everyone that has an email address that is on LinkedIn that you can connect with. So, and don't worry about overnight getting 500 connections. That's the magical number of connections. Don't worry about
I know that was like a
it.
big thing, right? And you had to put Lions Club or something weird in your subject line. I don't think that's even relevant anymore, because if you're playing the game right, so get your profile set up, start connecting with people, and the number one thing is get active. You got to get active. You got to start sharing, collaborating, maybe start a group of your own, and then move on to sales. Go to ontoboxtraining.com and get the full story on all these tips and things you can do to be successful on LinkedIn.
Yeah, the group thing is very interesting because there are going to be a lot of groups that you're interested in and that you can share stories with. And that's something we talk about doing whenever you go to our website, thehookradio.com. We want to hear your stories, want you to give us your feedback or tell us the wins that you had in business. It's the same thing with this, that you're talking to like-minded individuals.
But just go talk. Don't sell, guys. Do not sell.
Don't
inspire people to want to ask you about what else you can do.
That's going to be the first thing that turns people away, and you'll get your connections either refused. Good example of that is that there was this one guy that I was connections with, and a few other people were, and he went through all of our connections to get connected to more people, and you could see this. It's like, what? How does he know this person and this
Which
person?
wouldn't be bad if he was providing relevant content to
There
all
was
of you
no
guys.
content
But if there's no
behind
content,
it.
it's just kind of a creepy sales thing. Come on, man, you're a stalker.
Yeah, exactly. And so that meant everybody was getting messages, this generic message in their inbox, and that's a tune out. So you want to avoid that.
So we're going to get blown up on LinkedIn next week. Everybody's going to be connecting with us.
Yeah, just don't sell. That's all we're asking.
Yeah, that's it.
That's your business tip of the day with Jason Arcemont, the Marketing Maverick. I'm Josh Reno. Coming back next, we have a great guest in studio with us.
Blinds.com, Brad Parler.
All right, it's on the way from The Hook. You're listening to The Hook, the first ever show incorporating marketing and branding, brought to you by The Work Lodge. We talked about them earlier, and my name is Josh Reno, along with Jason Arcemont. Is that your name, Jason Arcemont?
That's it. That's
You're
it.
the CEO of the company that I work for, and also known as the Marketing Maverick, and you're very well connected in the industry, way much more so than I am, because you have all the cool friends.
Well, we've got some great people that we're connected with for sure. One of those people are with us today. We've got Brad Parler. Brad is the digital communication administrator for Blinds.com. Don't know if you guys know this, but Blinds.com is the world's largest online window covering store. They were just recently acquired by the Home Depot. Brad is a pretty unique guy. He has achieved some national industry attention with his innovative take on displaying important data in beautiful and easy to understand ways. But he's also done a great job of leveraging his personal brand in the workplace. So we're going to talk with him about both of those today. And not to mention, Brad's got one heck of a strong beard game. So, Brad, welcome to the show. Welcome for bringing your beard.
Thanks for having me, Jason.
Well, I guess before we start out, Brad, you want to tell us how people can get in touch with you? I know you're big on social media, Twitter handle.
I am, and everything that I do on the internet everything is real name. So it's really hard to find me. It's at Brad Parler on everything.
That's right.
Parler.
So it's all secret.
It's all secret.
Cognito.
Right.
Got it.
Yeah.
Was there a thought process behind going with a real name, or is that just, hey, I'm going to use my real name and go from?
It wasn't always real name, and so at the very beginning, it was Big B-Rad, and I was using underscores, and in the process of trying to become a lesser or a smaller guy, and trying to lose weight, I didn't want to always refer to myself as a big guy, and so in the process of changing my brand over on Twitter, I ended up stealing my name from myself because I use it as I took it because like, hey, it's available.
Right.
And I was like, oh my gosh, I need to grab this right now. And used and did the transfer the wrong way. And so for a year, I couldn't use like that name that I stole for myself. Like I couldn't, I had to make the decision of like, hey, starting from scratch on Twitter, which is not fun when you were a Twitter veteran and joined like really soon after it launched.
Right.
In the process of building that personal brand, and it's like realizing I am my name. That's how people are going to refer to me. Just getting through and launching onto that. Eventually, I did get all of the cards to align and started using everything as real name.
Yeah.
There are 2 other Brad Parlers in the world,
But they
In the
don't,
whole world?
But they don't get to use that handle.
but they're not doing anything with their personal brand. So I'm completely owning the space.
That's awesome. Well, this is a great way to kind of get into this segment. We've been talking about personal brandings throughout this whole show today, and I want to talk with you about your experience at Blinds.com. But maybe let's just cover your personal brand a little bit. What kind of things? What do people expect to hear from you or see you post on your social media?
So I am a massive geek. I am a maker. I love to take things apart. I believe that you don't fully own something until you've voided the warranty.
There you go.
You scare me.
Let's break stuff. It's
Let's
cool.
break stuff because you learn things out of that when you completely destroy something in a beautiful fashion to make it something better that better fits within yourself.
I'm totally freaking out right now because, as soon as you get the Dyson, you got to fill out the online registration and everything like that. No, you're freaking me out.
No, you need to put a turbo on it.
No.
Apparently.
There's a lot of engineering that goes into that, but what else can you do with it? Can you like make it a robot that and then like goes over like and make it a Roomba Dyson? Come on, things that you'll see me you'll see me tweet a lot or share a lot about social media best practices. You'll see me share a lot out of the things that I learn about that kind of stuff about technology. Just recently switched over to the new iPhone. And I was a huge Android guy, so I just before I came in, I did a scope on like, hey, here's my first Periscope from my new iPhone.
Okay.
I've had it for a little over a week now. Moving from the Android, where I believe it was very open and customizable, now I'm just using things that work.
We were talking about before on gaining exposure in social media and like how to engage. You've got over 4,400 or so followers just on Twitter alone. What has been your process for kind of tuning into your market and getting followers? Is it just being active? I mean, is it that simple?
So within Twitter is seen a lot by many celebrities as a megaphone, where you're going to share like, hey, I'm having toast.
Yeah.
Cool. But who cares?
If there's Jesus on that toast, though.
Well, then,
totally.
yeah, then you're on Good Morning
completely-
America.
Yeah, exactly. National press tour at that point. I started leveraging Twitter as a listening environment and finding out people who were going through the same things that I was going through. Search.twitter.com, just going through and searching out people and finding people who are going through or on a project that I'm trying to accomplish at the same time.
Okay.
Engaging those people, not just blurting out information over and hoping that it lands somewhere. It's like throwing pasta and seeing what sticks.
Yeah, right.
At the wall. Using Twitter and as a vehicle to seek people out. It's like, hey, that's a cool project. I like what you're doing there. I think that like you and I have a similar interest, and going through and finding out what can we work on in the future. Using it as an engagement platform, not just as a place to spew information about what you're doing.
Right.
I believe that when you connect with an individual about what's important to them, eventually they'll want to ask what's important to you.
Yeah. See, we were talking about that. Don't sell. You have to inspire people to want to engage. You're listening to The Hook. This is Jason Arcemont, the marketing maverick. We're in an interview at the moment with Brad Parler with Blinds.com. We haven't gotten too much into the Blinds.com story because Brad's has done a great job of developing his personal brand, and that's what we've been talking about today on the show. You can find him on Twitter at Brad Parler, Parler. Just like it sounds. Let's talk a little bit about your time at Blinds.com. I know, how long have you been there now?
A little over 3 years.
3 years, okay. And what I find interesting is, so Brad wasn't hired at Blinds.com for what he currently does, right?
Correct.
You kind of brought in for some other task, and you tell us a little bit about that, because I think it's great how you kind of leverage your personal brand within the workplace here too.
The original job posting that I responded to actually went to a job fair at Blinds.com and was hired on as a entry-level salesperson within what we call our customer engagement center.
Okay.
Most companies would look at it and they say, well, that's a call center. But at Blinds.com, we don't like the term call center and all the baggage it carries, because you think Cube Farm, you think of people working long hours who are all disgruntled. We are not that kind of company. So whenever I first came onto the job fair and being hired on as an entry-level salesperson, in the first 2 years of being there, I received 4 promotions. And consistently, and I was always looking for a different way of bringing my skills to the table.
Yeah, perfect.
I had a lot of a wealth of outbound sales experience of going sort of like outside sales. I was selling broadcasting equipment. Before that, I was working in the broadcasting environment. And that's why when you look at the screens and you look at the production that we're doing at Blinds.com, it looks like that because I had that competitive advantage.
Wow. And you know, for those that are in the Houston area, you've got to go to Blinds.com. You can sign up for a tour and see kind of the inside, behind the scenes of how this company runs. And just from the first few minutes of being there, you'll see how cutting edge they are with the technology. Mm-hmm. And with, you know, Brad's position being the digital communication administrator, I would imagine, Brad, you've had a lot to do with that, right? Bringing some of that to the forefront.
It's impossible to like go through and look at the different floors of the business and not see my fingerprints, which is really humbling to be able to say. That is, you walk throughout the entire complex, or what we like to call the Blinds.complex.
Complex, yeah. Nice.
And it's impossible to look around and not see things that I've touched, not see. We have close to 100 screens. And when I say screens, they're 55-inch televisions that are hung on the wall to be used to display information, near real-time stats on our phone system, what's going on in HR, what are they needing us to do, who are our top performers, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, the top performer ones was really neat. So they did like some green room shots of the employees like dancing, or kind of like the NFL, you know, where they'll show someone and then that person's like dun dun dun, you know, and they're doing the He-Man pose or something. So if you're like a top producer, then you get your little green screen video up on the monitor for everybody to see, and you get to kind of in your face. It's a good way to do that. I thought it was really cool. There's so many little things like that in this facility that's just really, really fun. What's maybe one of the technology things that you're most proud of? Some of the things that you guys done. I saw that big video wall with all the social media.
Yeah,
that was pretty awesome.
That project was called The Voice, and the challenge behind The Voice that I received from our chief sales officer was to bring in the voice of the customer in a new and engaging way. And that project is 4 75-inch televisions hung in portrait mode, and it makes a nearly 13-foot wide, 6-foot tall monolith of customer feedback.
Wow. Yeah, it's so impressive.
And that was one of those things that when that project all came together in 2 weeks.
Wow.
And so...
Wow.
It was one of those...
It took me longer than that to set up my social media platforms. I don't know.
A lot of that comes from the software. We have a partner that we use.
Okay.
And that's Zoomph, Zoomph,
okay.
Zoomph.com. They are a real-time social media listening platform that allows you to bring in all those feeds at one place, and they can do different analytics to see who's actually listening or tweeting about you.
Right.
It's a really neat thing for brands.
Yeah, and if you guys are listening to this and thinking, wow, that sounds interesting, I don't know where to start, I'm speaking for Brad, but I'm sure you're more than welcome to reach out. Brad loves talking about this and sharing some of the contacts and the resources on how he's able to do this. But I'll tell you what, this social media board was unbelievable, because talk about having a pulse on the kind of the temperament and the tone of the consumers. I mean, you're getting the good, bad, the ugly, everything displayed right there on the board for everyone in the office walking by to see.
Right.
What's going on, at least what the consumers feel is going on.
We're showing those things off, and it's that display of things is not just something that's not how we're tracking and identifying if we have issues or not. We have a social media team who's already on top of that. The thing that I'm most proud about that project is that it created this internal dialogue. I noticed a salesperson, she was like looking, and she was kind of upset with what was going on. And I was like, well, what happened? What's going on? And like, well, if this customer just knew this, like, we wouldn't be having an issue.
Right.
So my challenge to her was like, well, what are you going to do?
Yeah, what are you going to do about it?
Right. So I've been monitoring and kind of just checking in, and I hear her explaining that almost every call.
Yeah.
So that project has created this internal dialogue that's shaped behavior.
Yeah.
And it's changing.
Strengthen processes. Yeah.
Right. And it's strengthening it's strengthening the customer experience that we have because of something that someone was aware of. Now, that person could have gone on to Twitter search and found that response. But they would have to have been a lot more proactive to do that.
Sure. Any other crazy technology things or some advancements or projects that you're currently working on maybe that you see coming up?
The crazy football thing that you saw whenever you went through the tour.
Yeah.
So we're doing that in such a way that it's changing the way digital signage is actually happening. I just went through and I did I've done a lot of public speaking in the last 4 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the places that I was up in Toronto at a show called Disrupted, and got a chance to really show off what that was and the response, because I live in this little bubble in Houston. Blinds.com was the first, in using air quotes, call center that I've ever worked in. And it's the first time that I've produced media onto what people call digital signage. I didn't know what it was supposed to look like. Yeah. And so because I didn't have this cognitive bias of what the thing was supposed to look like, what came out was just this beautiful, amazing project. And in that 2-minute video, there are 55 data injection points where I'm pulling business intelligence into the video and having it automatically render.
Yeah, you're breaking molds you didn't know existed, right?
I didn't know existed.
That's so cool.
Exactly.
I love that. See, and we do that with branding and marketing all the time. It's like, stop worrying about what everybody else is doing and just do what you do extremely well. That's the best way to not have to worry about the competition, right? And, this isn't a competition when it comes to technology, but, right. For a referred to geek, it probably is, right? You want to
maybe a little.
Yeah, you want to have the best stuff. Yeah, I get it.
You always want to be the guy who's out there doing the things that everybody's talking about.
Yeah,
and it's one of those things that you look back and I think a lot of that goes to establishing why it is that you do things, not really worrying about how you're doing it or how other people are doing it or what they're doing. But when you start with your own personal why. Not sure if you guys have read the book Start With Why from Simon Sinek.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Absolutely love that guy.
Yeah.
Got a little bit of a bro crush. It's,
yeah, it's a strong game. Yeah, he's got a TEDx video too you can check out on YouTube. Well, I think it's really, really neat. What we're learning today is, one, start looking at the company that you're working with or the companies that you want to work with. And when you get involved in those companies, just take the job regardless of the position. If it's not the position you want, look at what Brad's been able to do by infusing his passions and the things that interest him into the workplace, maybe even before an advancement and before he got paid for it. Then those things started to come. Right. And I love that kind of a story. Doing the technology to implementing his personal brand, what a great example, what a great role model. Brad is on Twitter at Brad Parler, Parler. Blinds.com is twitter.com/blinds.com, DOTCOM. So definitely get in touch with them. And Brad, we want to thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing some of your insights. You got just a wealth of knowledge. We'll have to have you back, I'm sure.
Yeah, please do come back and see us because we have a ton of shows that we have in the future, and we're going to run out of guests at some point. I have this whole thing with Jason saying that I know at some point you're just going to run out.
My network game is strong, man.
I know, it is. So, hey, thanks for joining us this week for the Marketing Maverick, Jason Arcemont. I'm Josh Reno. Next week, we got a great show for you, too.
We have a special guest. The Logo Ninja is coming in, Johnny Garcia, to talk with us about a brand review. And then we have guest Mike Thorpe from the Work Lodge that we've talked so much about. He'll be in the studio talking with us about his vision and passion for developing this one-of-a-kind shared workplace.
And you can always find us on the website. We are thehookradio.com, the podcast, and the newsletter. So come by and visit us there, and we'll be back next week. Thanks for listening.